Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Meet the Grid podcast. I'm really delighted and thrilled today to host an amazing leader and legend in the field of medical oncology, hematology oncology, and medicine in general, our fearless leader, our director of the Cancer Center, Dr. Tom Lynch. He's an amazing figure in the field. Tom, thank you for joining Meet the Grid today.
Petros, great to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. And I have so many questions for you. I know the audience is looking forward to this podcast. I'm going to start about your journey and how did you end up in Seattle back in 2020, I think.
Exactly.
Just before the pandemic.
So I started my 7th year right now, which is fantastic. It's been great. I've been in medicine for 38 years now. I was in 2019, I was finishing up my time at Bristol Myers Squibb as the chief scientific officer. And we had just decided to acquire Celgene and merge that into Bristol Myers. So I was then looking for my next role and considering what my next opportunity was. And the Hutch CEO job opened up. So coming here made a lot of sense. And I have not regretted for a scintilla of time. It's been just the best place to be. And what an incredible group of doctors, scientists, researchers. It's just a spectacular place.
I totally agree with you, Tom, and we're so excited when you came. I remember that moment, and I was super happy myself and everybody here. And, going back in time with all the research you have done, back in the East Coast, in the Harvard system, your experience in academia and then in BMS, in industry, I think has influenced significantly your thinking. Tell me a little bit about that academia industry experience.
Yeah, so I'd say a couple of things. First of all, I'm a doctor, okay? If you go deep down to what my gut thing is, okay, it's taking care of patients. And that's always been what I've relied on and used as sort of my North Star that's gotten me through things, is actually taking care of patients. So I got into academia from the standpoint of being an academic lung cancer doctor. And then I realized, lung cancer, the outcomes of lung cancer in the 90s were terrible. We would debate, and this is before your time, Petros, we would debate whether gemcitabine was a better drug than paclitaxel in patients with non-small cell lung cancer. And they're both exactly the same. Okay, they both are marginally active drugs. And I knew we needed to do better than that. And that's why the commitment to doing clinical trials became such an important part of what I did in my career. And so I became very involved in clinical research. And by getting involved in clinical trials, that allowed me to really understand the importance of developing new drugs for patients and learn the process for how that happens. So it became very natural to get involved with more research once I made that transition from just being a doctor to being a doctor plus being a clinical trialist. Like you are a clinical trialist, very similar. I mean, you probably have a very similar story to how you got involved in bladder cancer research.
It's amazing to hear that, Tom, and you are correct. I feel the same thing. This hybrid of, being a doctor, taking care of patients, seeing the clinical questions that patients have and we have in clinical practice and try to answer those questions through research, through bench work, through clinical trials is so rewarding. And Fred Hutch recapitulates this translational research so well. So I'm sure this attracted you here.
Yes, very much did. And I think what I like so much about the Hutch, what I found attractive before I got here, and certainly when I got here, is how the commitment to doing things differently, doing things better, permeates the entire place. Whether we're talking about a fundamental scientist in basic, or whether we're talking about somebody who's doing clinical trials in advanced cancers, or someone who's working in population science. It's the same kind of commitment to take our information base today and make sure that tomorrow it's been enhanced.
Totally agree. And, I always say we're in clinic with our patients and, have these fundamental burning questions. When I came to Fred Hutch, I felt I'm in a candy store, literally, because of so many talented individuals. And as you said, working on different venues, arenas, and topics, that makes it so powerful to answer those fundamental research questions.
Yes, I agree with you.
So, Tom, tell me a little bit about, back in the day, the EGFR story. You have played a major role in the discovery of these EGFR mutations, changing the paradigm in lung cancer. Tell us a little bit about the process and the barriers you encountered and the big impact you had.
Yeah, so I'd say a couple things, but the EGFR story was really a patient story. It started with a patient. So the way I got involved in this is I was doing tons of clinical trials on lung cancer. This was right around 1999, 2000. I had become a major clinical trialist, was putting hundreds of patients on trials a year. And around 2002, I encountered a woman I was taking care of named Kate Robbins. And Kate was a mom, had 2 kids who were under 10. and she presented with locally advanced lung cancer. And we treated her with chemotherapy and radiation, and really nothing helped her. Everything progressed despite the chemotherapy radiation. Now, she'd never been a smoker. I then treated her on one clinical trial, which didn't work, gave her second-line chemotherapy, which around the time of 2000 was just kind of becoming standard of care in lung cancer. Second-line therapy didn't help her. And so I remember sitting down with her and her husband in October of 2002 and saying to them, listen, I got one more clinical trial we could try. It's a drug called gefitinib. I said, it works against EGFR, but we don't know who it works in or how it really works. And we've seen some patients have good responses, but we just don't know. And she said, of course, I'll be willing to try it. And she signed consent, joined the trial, gave her the drug in October. And by January, her scans were completely clean.
Complete response.
So she had a complete response to treatment. And so then the question is, how do you get from a complete response in a patient to a scientific observation? And it's not a linear story. And it really is a story where podcasts and news plays a role. So we're now, fast forward, it's now October of 2003, and I get a call from the hospital public affairs department. Now, like you, Petros, I was a young, emerging clinical trialist and scientist and clinician, and I always wanted to make the public affairs people happy. So I get this call from public affairs people, and they say, Tom, the Boston Globe wants to run a patient interest story, a feel-good story for the holidays, and they want to run it right after Thanksgiving. Do you have any patients who've had kind of remarkable, almost miraculous stories? I said, yeah, Kate Robbins has had a remarkable. So we sent the reporter out, and the reporter wrote an article on the front page of the Boston Globe talking about this incredible response she had. All her cancer was gone, and it's been a year. And they showed a picture of her taking her kids out to the school bus to be able to go to school.
Which is story.
A great story. But it doesn't end there. So then it turns out that Daniel Haber, who was a cyclin kinase biologist, and he was having breakfast, and he read the Boston Globe. That's back when, Petros, in the old days, papers were actually paper, okay?
The actual paper.
Actual paper.
Hard copy.
Hard copy. And so he's reading the hard copy, and he reads about my patient. And something goes off in his head, and he was a Howard Hughes investigator, picked up the phone and said, Tom, I think your patient has a mutation in the kinase domain of exon 19 of EGFR. I said, Daniel, that's an incredibly productive breakfast you just had. Okay. And so we sent samples to him, and then I sent samples from other doctors who were taking care of patients, and we discovered that indeed 8 of the 9 incredible responders all had these EGFR mutations. So in terms of impact, this is now how we treat people with lung cancer. We profile them for these mutations, among other mutations now, because now in lung cancer, we think that more than half of adenocarcinomas have an actionable and targetable mutation. So I think that's had a big impact in the treatment of lung cancer.
Tremendous story and patient-centered. It's so inspiring to see that impact on the individual patient, going back in the lab, answer why this success story happened, and then expand this and scale it globally.
Yeah, and it's allowed them to develop, pharma companies have gone on to develop specific inhibitors to specific mutation types. We've now learned that chemotherapy and kinase inhibitors and new monoclonal antibodies can play a role in treating EGFR mutated lung cancer, and the survivals have gotten much better. Now, Kate Robbins ended up living almost 19 years with her cancer.
This is a miracle indeed.
It's really remarkable.
And talking about miracles happening here at Fred Hutch too, there's so much going on. And, in my mind, Tom, and I would love to ask you your thoughts, there's so much going on in research. At the same time, there are challenges in the research funding, and people have questions about how can we sustain this momentum that change lives. How do you see that? And you do a great job managing that here.
So we, obviously, one of our biggest goals is to continue the research engine. Okay, and so what we're doing is we're doing everything we can to make the case for research, make it with the federal government, make it with people who've been generous donors to the Fred Hutch. Fred Hutch has been so fortunate that the community in Seattle and nationally has stepped forward and say, we want to support the Fred Hutch, made a huge difference to what we can do here.
Sure.
And so those are some of the ways that we're able to continue to support research. At the same time, our scientists continue to be very successful in getting grants. Now, the problem we're running into right now is that the way the government funds research has changed. It's not that the exact amount of money has changed, but the way grants are given has changed. And it's made it somewhat challenging for some of our basic scientists. So we're always looking for how we can come up with new ways of funding research that doesn't make all of our scientists completely dependent upon R01s.
It's very reassuring, encouraging, and very positive to hear that. And I know so much thought has been placed into that effort and sustaining the research happening. And I think the message for the community is that so much work is being done here, it's being continued. And we're so grateful, to your point, to all the philanthropists and donors supporting us in that mission.
It makes a huge difference. And Mike and Jackie Bezos have been incredible supporters to the Hutch and have allowed us to recruit some of the best scientists in the country to come here to Seattle and to start new programs and develop new ideas. I think that's been a huge difference. I keep coming back to one of the first people I spoke with who's a philanthropist. His name was Joel Smilo, and he gave the Smilo Cancer Hospital, gave the gift that started the Smilo Cancer Hospital, which I ran when I was at Yale. And one of the things Joel said to me, he said, Tom, he said, that money I gave to Yale for that hospital, he said, it's the greatest thing I ever did. He said, my friends are buying yachts and buying property. He said, they don't get the kind of pleasure that I get from getting notes and letters from patients telling me how my hospital that I helped fund has impacted their lives. And he said, the pleasure of giving is something people just don't understand how critical that is. Fortunately, in Seattle, Petros, we've had so many people who've been successful financially. And I think part of our job and your job and my job is to talk to people about that pleasure you get from giving and supporting science, whether it's bladder cancer or fundamental basic science or lung cancer. All these areas are important to support.
Totally agree. So well said. Talking about the innovation here, you talk about the immunotherapy program with Bezos' donation, which is fantastic. We also have the Precision Oncology Institute here, and Pete Nelson, our friend and colleague, is leading that. That's another great effort.
That's a fantastic effort, and Stuart Sloan and Molly Nordstrom Sloan have been incredibly helpful and supportive of our precision oncology effort. One of the things, I don't know what you think of this, when you talked a little bit about challenges. One of the things I'm a little frustrated by is we sit here in 2026, and I told you going back to 2002 with Kate Robbins, I'm still frustrated by the pace of molecular profiling. I personally believe that every patient with cancer should have their tumor completely sequenced at the time of diagnosis and at the time of progression. And yet, insurance companies make that incredibly hard to do. Difficulties with pathology processing make that incredibly hard to do. And I think as a field, we've missed an opportunity. One of the things I'd love to see in our precision oncology effort here at the Hutch is to make molecular profiling more prevalent in all the cancers we take care of. Now, as someone who focuses in bladder and GU, what do you think we're doing? How well are we doing in those areas? Because there are oncogene-driven cancers that you've worked with.
I totally agree with you, Tom. I think it's a huge opportunity to shorten the time, expedite testing. Even in bladder cancer, we have actionable genomic alterations. And we try to send the testing immediately at the time of diagnosis of metastatic disease. Yeah. And it may take a couple of weeks to come back. It may not always impact the first-line treatment. It may affect the subsequent line of therapy, but in the future, it might affect immediate decision-making. So I think shortening that time, I think will enable us to do the best thing for the patient in a precision and personalized manner. So I think it's definitely an infrastructure opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really important for us to make a difference as we move forward. I think one of the things that's been great that Pete Nelson and others have worked on is that commitment to not only sequencing tumors, but also sequencing the germline DNA of patients. And I think if you look at our prostate group, one of the things I think I'm most proud of is they're finding that the BRCA2 gene, for example, is really important for determining risk for developing prostate cancer. And if you have a BRCA2 mutation, you have a very different risk of developing prostate cancer. And it may impact the way you choose to get screened for this disease. And so I think some of the commitment to precision oncology isn't just to treatment and thinking about treatment like it was for Kate, but it's also for thinking about how do you get screened? When do you start getting mammograms if you're a woman being screened for breast cancer? And when do you start thinking about screening for prostate if you're a man and other types of cancers? And so I think precision screening efforts, and precision prevention efforts, I think, will be bigger as we move forward.
Totally agree. You know, going back to ancient Greece, Tom, Hippocrates, 1 ounce of prevention, maybe more than, kilograms of treatment. So to your point, I think it's a huge opportunity. Germline genetic testing, screening, families can have significant impact in cancer prevention. And we have a wonderful genetics clinic here and wellness clinic. Looking at this preventive mode, I think can expand. Thoughts on that?
So I think, the thing that's always frustrated me in lung cancer is that we actually did some big chemo prevention trials and they were all negative. In fact, there were some of these that suggested that the agents we were trying to prevent cancer, some of them actually had higher rates of cancer in those groups, which is why you really do need to test these things in clinical trials. I think our problem in prevention has been a lack of real breakthroughs in agents that can prevent cancer. Now, we know both the cancer you take care of and the cancer I take care of, tobacco is a huge issue for both bladder cancer and for lung cancer. And one of the things I think both of us can be very proud of is the reduction in cigarette smoking has helped both of our diseases.
For sure.
But plenty of people who don't smoke still get bladder cancer, same thing with lung cancer. And we need to think about, what about those people who already have smoked? Are there things we can think of to try to prevent bladder or lung cancer in those patients? And that's where I think interventions can make a big difference. I think the difficult thing is, there's a perception, I think, in the public that if I eat a balanced diet, rich in vegetables and fruits, and I watch my calories and I do these things, that I won't get cancer. And if I do, it must be something I did wrong. And I think sometimes that blame is something that's always hard for patients to grapple with because it's not necessarily the case.
Absolutely. There's so many factors. It's a multifactorial disease. Many things, genetic, environmental, can play a role. So to your point, we do our best.
Right.
In terms of environmental factors and lifestyle, but you cannot control everything in life.
Correct. Absolutely.
And I'm thinking the future, Tom, with all this research going on with, genetic germline mutations, we talked about the importance of that. Also circulating tumor DNA, it's very early days and we need much more data. But we're leading some great trial efforts looking at that domain.
I'm a huge fan of circulating tumor DNA and what that can mean. It gets us over so many of the hurdles of molecular profiling in actual tumor specimens that have been taken out. And we in our fields, when you do a biopsy, it's got to go to surgery. It's got to go from the OR to pathology. The pathologists are legally obligated to do a whole bunch of pathology studies on it before they can even turn their attention to sequencing. Whereas if there are tumor cells present in the blood, and there usually are in most of the diseases we treat, you can profile the blood and get very, very good representative genomics in that setting. So I have great hope. Field still needs to be developed. We still need research to get better at it. But circulating tumor DNA, I'm a big fan of in terms of thinking about how that can influence treatment. We already know in lung cancer that in some cases we can actually design second and third line therapy based on things we find in blood samples.
Very exciting. And we have great colleagues here working on circulating tumor DNA. I'm very excited to do work on that too. So I agree with you, great potential in testing the clinical utility of that in clinical practice. I also think the importance and value and role of the multidisciplinary care that we have here at Fred Hutch. We have multiple experts, medical oncology, radiation oncology, surgical oncology, pathology, radiology, nuclear medicine, and so on and so forth. That's one of our strengths here in working as a team. How do you see that evolving?
So I've watched multidisciplinary care evolve tremendously in my career. Okay, I remember when we first started, the only disease that was really multidisciplinary was breast, because that's when the observation, the trial supported the idea that a lumpectomy was as good as a mastectomy. So it meant seeing surgery and radiation together along with medical oncology. Now I think, Petros, as you point out, many, many tumors benefit from seeing a surgeon, a radiation oncologist, a medical oncologist, often another specialist as well, to help come up with the best plan. And that multidisciplinary care really matters when it's done first. Look at your disease. Look at bladder cancer. So the disease you treat, I remember, bladder cancer was just cystectomy. Well, now sometimes it's cystectomy plus chemo. Sometimes it's no cystectomy and it's chemotherapy and radiation. And it's tailored individually for the patient. So that opportunity to have input from specialists who take care of a wide range of cancers is really important.
Totally agree. And actually, we published recently a manuscript talking about the value of multidisciplinary bladder cancer clinic. And we have a wonderful connection with community oncologists. We see these patients in our clinic Tuesday morning with one-stop shop altogether. And then we're able to communicate this plan with community oncologists. If the patients go back to them, or if the patient stays here for treatment, we still communicate with community, so to keep them in the loop.
Yeah, which is terrific.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I have two more questions for you,
Sure.
Tom, and time flies. I want to talk to you forever, of course. So I want to congratulate you. I don't know if the audience knows, but recently you were one of the 100 top most influential leaders in healthcare, CEOs and beyond. Congratulations. Tell us a little bit about leadership. I learn from you every day, how you manage and lead. Tell us a few tips about leadership in healthcare.
So I'd say a couple of things. I think, for me, you've got to be able to make decisions. Okay. I think leaders who can't make decisions are handcuffed. And healthcare, particularly the rapid emerging challenges we have now, require you to be able to make decisions. So being able to make a decision is key. Second, communication. You've got to be able to talk to people, and you've got to be able to gather input on that decision making. Okay. There are very few circumstances where the CEO is the subject matter expert and the knowledge expert in a topic. I mean, just think of all the different things you and I just talked about, okay, that touch upon my day, from patient care to research to insurance coverage to the finances of healthcare. Rarely am I in the position where I'm the smartest guy in the room. I'm almost never the smartest guy in the room. And so being able to tap into those people who are the subject matter experts to get information, to be able to make that decision is important. Then once you've made that decision, being able to discuss what the decision means to people and to be able to listen to their questions and to be able to provide answers, I think is very, very important. I'd say another thing about leadership is really be aware. I had a mentor of mine who said to me, Tom, remember the shadow you cast as a leader, that when you say something or you make a decision, it has impact on a lot of people's lives. And I think about the 6,300 people who work at the Fred Hutch. It's not just 6,300 people, it's 6,300 families of people who work here, of moms and dads and sons and daughters and partners who rely on us for their life. And so I think that's a key thing of leadership, is remembering you've got a very broad constituency. You and I are both medical oncologists, but it's not just about doctors. It's not just about nurses or advanced practice providers or scientists or technicians. It's about everything. Everybody, administrative support, everybody who works at the Fred Hutch is really important.
It's amazing to hear that, to see how you practice and you take everything into account in a comprehensive manner. Last question, Tom. It's always amazing to see your journey. If I ask you if you go back in time and you would do this all over again, what would you keep? What you would change if something comes to mind?
So I don't think I'd change a heck of a lot, Petros. And the reason I say that is because, first of all, the reason you end up in certain places is because of decisions you made along the way. I don't think there's I've certainly enjoyed certain jobs more than others. I've loved being at the Hutch tremendously. I loved when I was in practice at Mass General doing that translational oncology tremendously. I loved being at Smilo. Those were really great experiences. But all the other experiences also played a big role. I was the head of the Mass General Physicians Organization. I learned a ton about the organization of medical practices in that role. I had 3,000 doctors that worked for me, and I learned a ton about that. When I was in Bristol Myers, I learned how, first of all, I had a $6 billion budget, and I learned how to develop drugs. I learned a lot about how the FDA works. So I don't think I'd regret any of the experiences I've had, but there's certainly some favorites in terms of what I enjoyed, and being here has been fantastic.
I appreciate that, Tom. And as I always say, it's a journey in life. And one of my favorite poems about the journey in life, but a Greek poet called Cavafy, called Ithaca, is the poem. It's about the destination is the island, Ithaca, but the journey is what really matters.
Yeah, terrific.
I appreciate you, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Great to have Dr. Tom Lynch, our fearless leader in the podcast Meet the Greek. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and looking forward for more episodes coming very soon for Fred Hutch Cancer Center. Thank you.